I'd like to cover some questions that you'll be seeing on most grant applications. Most of these are going to be self-explanatory, but I want to show you what kind of questions are typically asked to give some peace of mind before you get into filling out the applications. Depending on the organization, some may ask more detailed information and some may have very few questions. This is just to give you an idea of what you'll typically be seeing on grant applications. Most applications are going to start with your entity information. This information will depend on your project and who it affects. If it's a project that affects only your classroom, you'll likely fill out the information based on your school. If it's a project that affects multiple groups within your district, then it will likely need to be information about your entire school district. Some school districts have a nonprofit or education foundation associated with them, and it might make sense for the grant to go through them in some cases. Some grantors will only fulfill grants through a 501c3, so that would need to go through your Associated Education Foundation. Really quick, for those that don't know what that is, it is simply a nonprofit foundation with the sole purpose of raising money for your school district. They can handle donations, giving tax breaks for those donating, and also write grants and hold other fundraisers. It's a great thing to look into if your school district does not already have one, because it really does open up a lot more avenues for accessing funds. Getting back to the application, once you've established the entity you'll be applying through, your school, school district, or education foundation, this information will need to apply to them. So the full legal name, the address, and the phone number. The contact person will likely be you. Sometimes the grantor wants to reach out and discuss the project in more detail, so the person they'd want to reach out to is you, the person overseeing the project. They'll want to know your title, a phone number they can reach you through, and an email address. Make sure that the email address you provide is one that is checked frequently year-round. I know that a lot of teachers take the summers off, so just make sure that this email is one that they can reach you at through those months. Some applications will ask for a secondary contact. I typically use the school principal, or if you have a partner that will be helping with the project, you may include their information as well. The tax status will likely be school or educational institution if you are applying through your school or school district. It will be a 501c3 if you're applying through an education foundation or other nonprofit. If you're applying through a school or school district, you'll use their employer identification number or the EIN number. If you're applying through a 501c3, you'll use the tax ID number assigned by the government when they granted that foundation with a 501c3 nonprofit status. Most grant applications will also ask for the mission statement of your organization. If you don't already know it, your school, school district, or education foundation may have it on their website, or you can find it out from your principal or superintendent. There will be questions about your organization's budget and financial information. What I see most often is a question about the yearly operating budget for the organization. This is the amount of money that is predicted to be used for your organization to operate through the year. Your school district will have one in place. Your school district accountant or secretary will have that information. If you're applying through a nonprofit foundation, they may not have an operating budget. The education foundation in my area doesn't. They don't have paid employees. They don't have any overhead costs to operate. So what I've heard through many different grantors in that instance is to use the current balance of the organization in place of the operating budget. That information should be made available to you by the chairperson of that organization or the executive director. These next few questions I rarely see, but I wanted to include them so you'd be aware. Some grantors may ask for a balance sheet with the assets and liabilities of the school or school district, the income statement or profits and losses, and audited financials if they are available from the previous year. Like I said before, I rarely see those questions. I mostly only see a question about the operating budget for the organization. But if you have questions, your school district accountant or secretary will have those numbers. That financial information should already be in place for the year.